You've met someone for the first time. 5 minutes in, you already know something feels off. You can't explain it. They said all the right things. They smiled at the right moments. And yet, something in you quietly stepped back. That instinct. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't judgment. It was you reading the room in a language you never consciously learned. Most people think reading others is a skill reserved for detectives, therapists, or the unusually perceptive. But Nietzsche, one of the most penetrating minds in human history, believed something different. He believed that people are always telling you exactly who they are, not with their words, with everything else. And once you understand how, you can never unsee it. Here's what nobody tells you about human behavior. People don't hide as well as they think they do. The mask is always slightly crooked. The performance always has a missed cue. And the gap between who someone is and who they're pretending to be, that gap speaks louder than anything they ever say out loud. You're not broken for noticing this. You're not paranoid. You're not too sensitive. Your nervous system is doing something ancient and intelligent. Scanning, measuring, comparing. It learned to do this long before you had words for it. This isn't about distrust. It's about clarity. Nietzsche wrote that the strength of a person is measured not by how they treat their equals, but by how they treat those who can do nothing for them. Think about that slowly, because you've seen this in your own life. The colleague who is warm and generous with the boss, but dismissive with the intern. The date who is charming with you, but cold to the server. The friend who listens deeply when they need something and disappears when they don't. This isn't coincidence, it's character. The way someone behaves when nothing is at stake, when there's no reward, no audience, no benefit, that is who they actually are. Everything else is performance, and most people are so focused on the performance that they miss the moments between scenes. Those quiet, unguarded seconds, the flash of irritation, the slight pause before answering, the eyes that drift away at a particular word. Watch the moments nobody thinks they're being watched. That's where the truth lives. And this is where it gets interesting. Nietzsche also understood that people reveal their values through what irritates them, not what they say they believe, but what makes them visibly uncomfortable, quietly resentful, or unexpectedly defensive. Anger is always a map. It always points somewhere real. The person who bristles when someone else is praised. The one who gets quietly cold whenever you set a boundary. The friend who turns every conversation back to themselves without realizing it. These aren't random reactions. They're signals from a self that hasn't been fully examined. Someone who genuinely feels secure in who they are doesn't feel diminished when others succeed. Someone with real empathy doesn't require your pain to stay manageable and small. These reactions, the subtle ones, the ones people try to smooth over with a laugh or a redirect, they tell you what someone actually believes about the world, about themselves, about you. There's another truth Nietzsche kept returning to, and it's one that takes time to fully absorb. He believed that people will endure almost any difficulty, if they have a reason why. And the inverse is equally true. Without meaning, even comfort becomes unbearable. Watch what someone is willing to suffer for, what they stay in even when it hurts them, what they keep returning to, not what they say matters to them, what they actually organize their life around when no one is making them. A person's loyalties, their sacrifices, their patterns of returning. These are their real values written in behavior instead of words. Someone can tell you they value honesty and spend years communicating in half-truths. Someone can say they value peace and create conflict everywhere they go. The actions taken consistently and quietly over time are always more honest than the declarations. But here's the part nobody tells you. Reading people accurately isn't just about seeing their flaws. It's about seeing their wounds. Nietzsche understood, more than most philosophers ever admitted, that much of what looks like cruelty is actually pain, that much of what looks like coldness is actually fear, that what presents as arrogance is sometimes a person who learned very early that softness got them hurt. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it explains the architecture. And when you can see the architecture, when you can see that the person who dominates every conversation is terrified of being invisible, or that the one who never asks for help learned that needing things was dangerous, something shifts. You stop taking it personally. You stop internalizing it as information about your worth. You see them clearly, not harshly, clearly. As you get older, this kind of perception changes. When you're young, you read people and it feels urgent. You need to know if they're safe, if they're real, if you can trust them. The reading is desperate. It's protective. It's a survival skill wearing the costume of intuition. But something shifts over time. The urgency quiets. And what's left is something steadier, a kind of calm recognition. You stop hoping people will be different from what they've shown you. You stop arguing with evidence. You learn to receive what someone offers without needing it to be something else. The reading becomes less about protection and more about understanding, less about guarding and more about witnessing. It becomes quietly an act of compassion, even when what you see is difficult. This capacity to see people honestly without illusion is like an anchor. It doesn't stop the waves, but it keeps you from being carried somewhere you don't want to go. It gives you something to hold while the chaos moves around you. Not certainty, not control, just clarity. And clarity in a world that is often very noisy is its own kind of peace. You don't need to announce what you see. You don't need to confront it or fix it or explain it. You just need to know it, quietly, privately, with a kind of steady knowing that belongs entirely to you. Nietzsche wasn't a cynic. That's what most people get wrong about him. He didn't study human nature because he hated people. He studied it because he believed that seeing something truly, without flattery, without delusion, without the comfortable lies we tell each other, was one of the deepest forms of respect you could offer another human being. To see someone clearly is to take them seriously, to stop projecting, to stop hoping they'll match the story you've already written about them, to let them be exactly who they are, and then decide from that honest place what role they play in your life. You've always had this ability. It was never something you needed to acquire. You were simply waiting, perhaps, for permission to trust it. You can trust it.